When we talk about minimalism and decluttering, we also have to talk about Marie Kondo. And I've read her book about 10 times, but don't worry, I have some criticism as well. So if you don't know me, my name is Leah and I'm uploading videos twice a week about minimalism and sustainable living. If you enjoy these topics and want to see future videos, please subscribe to my channel. And now let's get started. I bought Marie Kondo's book after I already have started minimalizing and decluttering my life. I first heard about Marie Kondo when I was watching YouTube videos about 5 years ago when I started my minimalism journey. And I thought it was a good concept. It was a good idea that she had with this sparking joy, with how she would organize the stuff and everything like that. Half a year later or something like that, I bought her book. I read it and I was addicted. The method she talks about in The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up worked quite well for me. I changed it a little bit so it was perfect for me. I folded all my clothing like she would recommend. I tidied my life and I was happy. And up till now, my space is quite clean. I do think about things that she recommends in her book, and I certainly declutter the way she recommends by taking everything out, deciding what sparks joy and putting the things back that spark joy. But there are a few things that I am not really happy about with her method. I mean, I read her book about 10 times. I really like most of it, but then in the end I just got rid of because I thought I'm reading it over and over again, and every time I get less and less out of it because I know it so well already, and I don't think the magic started disappearing. It was just that same book and it couldn't make such a change happen again and again. So I got rid of it, put it in an open bookshelf so somebody else could take it that would want to read it, and of course it was gone in a few days. The first thing that I didn't particularly like when reading her book was this relationship with things. She talks a lot about how she feels about her socks and how she feels about the items around her, and that was just it's just not my way of looking at things. I mean, she can do it like that. It didn't really put me off too much, but it was just whenever I read a part where she was talking about her relationship with things and how the things felt and how they acted and how you should treat them, how she suggests to treat the items. It was just there was distance between me and her philosophy. It was just that put something in between me and that book. What was really strange to me as well is that she talks about the only correct way to fold clothing. And I just don't think it's a good thing to say in your book that you know the only correct way to do things like folding clothing. And I mean, she has a good concept and she thinks a lot about it, and she didn't even invent it, by the way, and it works fine, and I fold most of my clothes like she would fold them, and it works well for me as well, but it just put me off that she said it's the only correct way to fold clothing. But she has kind of a weird obsession with folding all of the clothes, so maybe that is because she lived in Japan, and in Japan usually you don't have that much space, so hanging clothes would really be a waste of space. And if you have a lot of clothing items, then maybe it really makes sense to save that space and fold all of your clothing. But the easier way would be hanging them, I think, because hanging doesn't take as much time, and hanging you could even hang dry them on hanger and then hang them into your wardrobe, wear them and wash them again. So it would be a lot less steps and it would be easier in some ways. So she thinks you have to fold all of your clothing, or at least all of the clothing that can be folded. But I personally do fold my clothing, but I think you could also hang your clothing. I don't see a problem like she sees a problem with hanging clothing. What I really like about her method is that it's important to her that it is very easy, that it just makes sense, that everything that belongs together is stored together, that you don't need organizers, that you just take whatever you have, that you make things work, that you have at home, and that you first declutter before putting anything away, because if you start putting things away, it just can get even more complicated because you don't know how much you will have in the end, and then it just doesn't really make sense. So I would really recommend doing it the way she suggests, by taking everything out, decluttering it, and then giving everything its place, its home. I think that's a very good way as well to prevent things from overflowing and just getting everywhere. What feels a little bit weird for me as well is ripping photos out of the albums. And she really recommends taking all of the photos out of the albums, because you should like look at them individually and decide for each photo and not just like the album as one thing. And I actually did that, and I'm happy that I did it, but it felt a little bad, and I realized that I could see a lot of people not wanting to do that. At least if you don't have an album where you can like stick them into and take them out, but if it's really like an album somebody wrote in and like puts the pictures in certain places, that seems rude to rip all of these photos out of the album. But I do get it. If you want to minimize, that is the best way to do it, I think. When she talks about decluttering, she always talks about her 45-liter garbage bags. So she recommends putting everything in 45-liter garbage bags, because then they don't get too heavy. And then she recommends to like bring them away. I think she means like tossing them into the garbage as soon as possible, to not look at them again, to like get closure and to be done with it. And I get it from that perspective. If you have like a huge, overwhelming mess and you just want to clear that mess and get rid of everything, that is the easiest way, and that does like get the best results the fastest. But I don't think it's the best way to do it, because I strongly believe that you should care about the items you get rid of as well. I mean, she suggests thanking every item. I suggest make sure that you don't waste the resources. So I would recommend bringing everything you can to a second-hand store, or selling it if you want, but selling usually takes a lot of time, so I recommend bringing it to a second-hand store, so you will have closure quite soon, and you know that everything that can be reused is reused again. Of course, your old like paper clutter things, you have to throw these away, but please recycle them, because there's no need to like burn them or put them in the regular trash. So I think for most people it's obvious, or maybe not, but I do strongly recommend to take care of the items you get rid of, to make sure that they are disposed properly, and so that the resources are not wasted. While some people think that like sparking joy, that thing she talks about, that feeling if you hold an item in your hands, is very strange, I think it works for most things. But of course you have things that just don't spark joy. My kitchen utensils don't spark joy, my documents I have to keep don't spark joy, and there are a lot of other things that I just have to have that do not really spark joy. So I think we have to like take a step back and also think about if we need an item and not just if it sparks joy. But I know she does say that as well, that she understands that some things do not spark joy, but we have to keep them. But of course we can think about like appreciation we have for these items, so because they help us in our everyday life. So that is something we can feel for them, but just not like that spark of joy. And then when she comes to the end of the decluttering process, she speaks of a moment where it makes ding again, and you realize that you have the perfect amount of items for your life. And maybe I just don't get it, or for me that moment has not come until now, because I decluttered a lot of things. I decluttered about 80% of my belongings or more. And I keep decluttering from time to time, but something like ding, or a magical moment of everything is perfect and I don't need any more or less items in my life, does not happen to me. So maybe she just raises too many expectations in me or something like that, but that doesn't happen for me. And I think that for a lot of people it doesn't happen either. Because also your life changes. And I don't think that if you have decluttered once, that is the exact number and the exact kinds of items you will have for the rest of your life. Because your like needs change, your environment changes, your life changes, and maybe you're going to need different things. So that thing when you have the perfect amount of stuff did not happen for me, and I would be interested if it has happened for you, if you have tried the Konmari method. I can highly recommend to read her book, but I do not really recommend to only watch her show. Because while a lot of people got suddenly addicted to cleaning their closets after watching her Netflix show, I did not feel that way. I thought her book was quite good, apart from these few things that were not really something that I liked, but her Netflix show definitely was not as good. And I see it's just marketing, it's promotion for her like method, and I mean she has all her Konmari consultants and other people that work with her business, and it's a like huge thriving business model she has there. So she does a good job being a businesswoman, but I don't think you need these things. I think you can read her book, watch the videos on YouTube that are available on that topic, but I do not recommend like thinking her method is what is shown in the show. Another thing that has recently happened is that she has launched her shop, and you can take a look at it on the internet, and there are a lot of designer pieces that she sells, and usually, I mean, it's not organizers, I mean, and she does think you don't really need these organizers, so that makes sense. But it is, most of the time, I have to say, not really useful things. I think she does work together with designers and the pieces are maybe good quality and nice materials, but it seems a little strange if she preaches getting rid of all the excess and the rest will look good as it is, as the items that spark joy, that will fulfill you and that will like create an environment for you to be happy in. And now she sells these other things that seems like decoration items that, like, following her method, nobody really needs, and with the prices they come at, I'm not a huge fan of that shop. I will definitely not purchase things from that shop, and I will definitely like close that chapter even more of like Konmari method, Konmari products, Konmari books and things like that. I think it is a really good method. I think you can really like take a look at her book, read it, listen to the audiobook, watch the videos. They can help you a lot, and I think they still have an impact on how I live, how I create my minimalist surrounding. So let me know what you think about the Konmari method, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to see you next time. Bye!